Welcome in to NFL Daily by Chat Sports. Tyler Jones here with you. Thanks for spending part of your Sunday with us. We got a lot to talk about on today's show. Some breaking news involving Brandin Cooks headed to the Dallas Cowboys. Also, we have an update on Lamar Jackson as well as OBJ. We'll get to all of that and more coming up in just a few moments. Before you do, if you are not subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? We had a crazy week here in NFL Daily. We did live shows throughout every day of free agency frenzy. We also are counting down to the draft. We had a team that was just at the Combine a couple weeks ago, and we're looking forward to all these moves that are happening throughout these upcoming weeks. You know we got you covered. We're even going to do a big draft show here when the draft gets started coming up in about a month. So if you're not already subscribed, you need to be. The latest happenings across the National Football League, it's all covered right here. NFL Daily by Chat Sports. Subscribe now for free. Turn on notifications so you never miss a moment. We begin today with Brandin Cooks headed to the Dallas Cowboys, going from one Texas city to another. The Texans trade Cooks to Dallas. They get a 5th and 6th round pick in exchange for Brandin Cooks. And what's interesting about this is a couple things. The Texans not only unload some salary here with Brandin Cooks, but the Cowboys fill a much-needed void at the receiver position, getting a running partner for CeeDee Lamb. We saw this Cowboys team last year that they were significantly worse at the receiver spot without Amari Cooper. And Cowboy fans were talking a lot last year about this team just not being as prolific offensively and not having that next guy at the receiver spot like what Brandin Cooks brought to the table. Now, Jerry Jones and company get their guy in Brandin Cooks. And you look at the numbers at Brandin Cooks. And, I got to tell you, they've been pretty dang good over the last few years. 2021 had 1,000 yards receiving. 2020 had over 1,100 yards receiving. 2018, 1,200 yards receiving those years. And he's been a big play threat as well. You look and see all the receptions that he's had of over 20-plus yards in those last 4 seasons from 2021 to 2018. We focus on those because I want to show you specifically of just the consistency that goes beyond just what we've seen even recently. I want to go back even further just to show you that Brandin Cooks, he's played with different quarterbacks. He's been in different systems, and yet this guy has found ways to be productive and been an impact player, and there's no reason to think that he won't be the same in Dallas. The big winner today is Dak Prescott getting another weapon for this Cowboys offense. Offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer, Mike McCarthy, they got to be jumping up and down. They got this move today to bring in Brandin Cooks. What's your one-word reaction to the Brandin Cooks trade? My one-word reaction, I'm going to use for Dallas's case. I'm saying pleased, satisfied. Those 2 words for me. If you're a Cowboys fan, you have to be pleased. You have to be satisfied with this type of move. If you're Houston, I think you're sitting here today and you're saying to yourselves, look, Brandin Cooks, we were going to move on from more than likely anyway. You got at least something out of him as far as that goes. So what's your one-word reaction? That's our pinned comment today. Let me know in the comment section below. Odell Beckham Jr., where will he end up? He still remains on the free agent market as of Sunday morning. And what's interesting about this situation is we heard the reports that OBJ wanted $20 million a year, right? Which just seemed absurd for OBJ at this point in his career, especially coming off the ACL injury and not playing this past season. He has since denied those reports. He said that simply $4 million was not going to be enough. So he's not asking for 20, he says, but he wants more than $4 million as far as that goes. Now, the top destinations that have been rumored for OBJ within the last couple of days include the Kansas City Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes. Obviously, they just lost Juju Smith-Schuster to the New England Patriots. Patrick needs some help there. OBJ seems like that could make sense. The New York Jets, sounds like Aaron Rodgers is headed to the Jets, and we know that Aaron has had some interest in pairing up with OBJ back to his days in Green Bay, obviously. That was talked about last year. And now he's being rumored with the New York Jets potentially of going with Aaron to New York. The Dallas Cowboys, I think, are less likely now that they've made this move for Brandin Cooks to potentially bring in OBJ right now. But Jerry has always had this fascination with OBJ, and they seem to be the most interested team in his services last offseason. The Baltimore Ravens, if they get a deal done for Lamar Jackson, more on Lamar in a second, by the way, then they're going to need to get him help. And OBJ seems like an option that would make the most sense. But the Ravens don't have a whole lot of flexibility when it comes to the salary cap. So is that something they could potentially pull off? And then there's the Buffalo Bills. And the Bills this past season came up a little bit short, right, of getting to that AFC championship game. And this arms race that we're seeing in the AFC with the Chiefs and the Bengals and these other teams, if you're the Buffalo Bills, you got to do what you can to keep pace, to try to keep up. Could OBJ be that guy that puts the Bills over the edge? We saw what he did with the Los Angeles Rams, that team would not have won that Super Bowl without OBJ. He put that team over the top. Could that be the case for the Buffalo Bills? So those are some of the top destinations for OBJ. Now it's your turn to chime in here on NFL Daily. Where will Odell Beckham Jr. end up in NFL free agency? Give me one team. Where do you think that OBJ is going to sign? Tell us in the comments section below where you think OBJ ends up when it's all said and done. Our long national nightmare is almost over. Where will OBJ go? Let me know. Final note before we wrap up today's show. We have an update on Lamar Jackson and his contract negotiations. Now, let's catch up to speed piece by piece here. Ravens put the non-exclusive franchise tag on Lamar Jackson. He could not start negotiating immediately when the window began for everyone else because he didn't have an agent. And we sit here on Sunday, and as far as we know, there's no formal offers at this point in time, no formal offer sheets. And what we were told was that teams necessarily didn't want to do the negotiating for the Ravens because there was a belief that the Ravens would match any offer that was put out there. Well, now Jeremy Fowler of ESPN is reporting that there are two new teams potentially interested in bringing in the Ravens quarterback. Here's what Fowler had to say. They mentioned Tennessee, who just cleared some cap space. They have a new GM in Rand Carthon, who's working on the roster. They could use a running quarterback. They have experience with that in the past. Marcus Mariota, of course. And then here's another element from Fowler's report. And even a wild card like Minnesota. Kirk Cousins has 1 year left on his contract if they want to reestablish their identity there. So, Tennessee and Minnesota. It's interesting because both of those teams have a recent track record of winning, right? And typically what we've been talking about of these teams that have been interested in Lamar Jackson, throughout all this, the New York Jets, the Las Vegas Raiders, the Atlanta Falcons, all of those have been down teams, right? And this is what's fascinating. When you talk about the Vikings, when you talk about the Titans, those are teams that have all been in the playoffs multiple times recently. So that is very interesting to hear as far as that goes. At the end of the day, I still think Lamar ends up back in Baltimore, but we'll see. It only takes one. It only takes one to move the needle of some sorts. We'll see what happens. Will Lamar Jackson return to the Ravens? I say yes. What say you? Y for yes, N for no. Let us know in the comments section where you think Lamar Jackson ends up. Y for yes, N for no if he's back with the Ravens. As always, you can follow me on social media, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at Tyler Jones Live. You can follow me there. I'll see you next time here on NFL Daily.